My name is Greg Rappaport, and I'm a member of the management team at DTCC. I'm here today to talk to you about DTCC Consulting. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Andrew Pennington and Carolyn Costolny. Now we offer DTCC Consulting. Why now, and what unique perspectives does DTCC bring to the consulting arena?
Thanks, Greg. We've created consulting services to better serve DTCC's clients. In fact, it's a unique consulting offering which really leverages DTCC's second-to-none derivatives and securities experts who can assist clients with their operational and strategic challenges. DTCC Consulting Services can help firms transform their post-trade operations, including conducting initial infrastructure diagnostics, providing expert insight on their operational model, design, as well as helping firms to just deliver on their strategy. Given DTCC's global presence and regulatory proficiency, consulting services can help any firm navigate its way through the upcoming web of regulatory reporting changes, including the CFTC rewrite and EMIR Refit, which industry experts expect to go live in 2022 and 2023 respectively.
In today's session, we're going to talk a lot about EMIR Refit, which involves both ESMA and the latest consultation from the FCA, Bank of England. And there are a lot of new requirements out there, but none of them stick out as more game changers than the requirement that firms submit to the TRs in a new format, the ISO 20022 format, and that TRs respond to clients in the same way. As a reporting firm, Andrew, where would I start to address this? And what are the major decisions that I need to do over the coming months, even though the expected implementation of this may not be until the end of 23 or 24?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the key consideration for a lot of our clients is whether to outsource a lot of that message translation and response receipt to a third-party reporting vendor or whether to handle it internally. Sending the data in ISO 20022 format, as you said, is hard enough, especially for products that don't commonly use XML messaging, like exchange-traded derivatives. But consuming the enormous end-of-day reports and adjusting your processes around that, so the exception management, reconciliations you might run on a trade state report or a submission report, is going to be a huge challenge for any firm.
I think we're hearing that from a lot of people, and I think that's really the first place I think people should focus. In addition to ISO, the EMIR regulations, as well as all the rest of the regulations around the world, are moving toward the requirement to report a UPI, a unique product identifier. This seems pretty straightforward. There's a product, there's an identifier, yet there's a lot of people talking about the issues around it. Carolyn, what am I missing? Why is this so complicated?
Sure. So whilst the UPI is only one field, there are two key considerations for firms. Number one is where to consume the field within their technical architecture. And number two, how that field makes its way to the regulatory reporting layer. Securing agreement internally within your firm on whether it should sit in the trade capture layer, the reference data layer, or go directly into the reg reporting system is not a small decision, as this agreement can impact who's responsible for fixing the issues if the process goes wrong, who should be reconciling against the golden sources, and other operational considerations.
A lot for people to start thinking about. So Andrew, you mentioned a minute ago about ETD and ETD, the XML is not used for it a lot. EMIR, both ESMA and UK, both require reporting of ETD transactions, while other jurisdictions do not. Can you just kind of run through for our viewers, what are some of the key issues in the upcoming refit that treat ETD differently, or things people should be considering about ETD above and beyond what they do for their OTC transactions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you say, kind of ETDs have always been a point of contention under EMIR from the initial go live where an extension was requested in 2014 and not granted, all the way through to the current situation where end-of-day positions are reported as well as the transactions that form them, which is suboptimal for many firms. There are still significant challenges for ETDs under the refit. Ultimately, a lot of the refit has been designed with OTC contracts in mind, and these challenges range from how to report products that are executed on non-EU or non-equivalent venues. ESMA suggests that these should be reported as OTC products, to how to report flat positions where you're neither long nor short. And again, some real complexity suggested there by ESMA, with potential for firms to have to report zero valuations over a long period of time.
Question for Carolyn. There's a lot going on out there around delegated reporting, mandatory delegated, including the addition of a new field known as ERR or ERFR. It's the entity responsible for reporting. What should our viewers be looking at for that over the course of the next 6 to 12 months?
Of course, both client and regulator expectations with regard to delegated reporting have consistently risen over the past few years, mainly due to national competent authorities like the Central Bank of Ireland or the CSSF in Luxembourg, really holding clients to account on the data reported on their behalf. ESMA have taken that up a notch in their consultation paper, suggesting that firms that delegate should get frequent updates from their broker-dealers if there are data quality issues. This is a real change to the current dynamic where delegated reporting responsibilities are a bit more ambiguous. As you mentioned, Greg, new fields like ERR are also being introduced and bringing EMIR delegated reporting in line with CFTC, another reporting regime, so firms will need to adjust their reporting mechanisms to handle this new field.
Inside the Dodd-Frank regulations, there's a requirement to begin reporting the unique product identifier known as the UPI. This seems like a fairly straightforward identifier that would be associated with any trade. But unlike in other jurisdictions which have a T+1 reporting, inside of this Dodd-Frank requirements, timing is of an issue because you have to begin reporting immediately after the trade for the real-time reporting requirements. So can you give the firms a little bit of an idea of the kinds of issues they need to begin addressing around the UPI and how they need to set up their own organization?
Sure. So whilst UPI is only one field, there are two key considerations for firms: where to consume the field within their technical architecture and how that field makes its way to the regulatory reporting layer. Securing agreement internally within your firm on whether it should sit in the trade capture layer, reference data layer, or go directly into the reg reporting system isn't inconsequential, as this agreement impacts who's responsible for fixing the issues if the process goes wrong, who should be reconciling against golden sources, and other operational considerations.
Thank you very much. So Andrew, one of the other big changes as we talk a little bit about PPD in real time is that it's changing to be, instead of event-based, to be more position-based, adding event and action types. Can you give everyone just a brief idea of the kinds of things they need to be considering to make this change?
So yeah, as you say, Greg, having to submit the event type and action type will effectively link the dissemination of post-trade events to the original dissemination ID. There's a difficulty in doing this sequencing and message choreography in close to real time, as well as a potential danger of firms having their executions fingerprinted or recognized by other organizations. One of the other changes you mentioned was a move to more position-related economic attributes, so reporting the remaining notional versus the termination amount, for example. This is similar to what's done in other jurisdictions, but again, is something that will have to be tested thoroughly given this is publicly disseminated information.
Right, and while it's been done in other jurisdictions, it's never been done in the public sort of ticker environment. So it should be something people really need to pay attention to. But in addition to reporting, Andrew, the Dodd-Frank rules also then govern some of the operations and flows within a firm. Can you talk a little bit around what reconciliations and the new requirements in the rewrite will mean to a firm?
Sure. So actually, the part I would most be concerned with as a reporting firm is the requirement to reconcile and rectify or correct errors. The CFTC's expectations on error correction and how often firms are reconciling their reporting population have shot through the roof. So swap dealers have to reconcile their reporting population every month and correct any issues they find within a week, 7 days, whereas other counterparties have to do it every quarter. This has got obvious implications for firms, not least the requirement to keep a verification log of that reconciliation or verification process that they call it. You also have to notify the director of DMO if you haven't fixed the problem within 7 days. It's hard enough to find the root cause of an issue within 7 days, let alone correct or rectify it. So this is going to be hugely impactful for reporting firms.
So yeah, that could definitely change the way a firm prioritizes and does its work. So obviously an opportunity for firms to take a look at what they're doing today. One of the other changes inside Dodd-Frank is adding a number of new fields. Some of them are small, minor clarifications, but other are fairly different in the flow of data, including collateral and the delta of a transaction. Some of this is done in other jurisdictions, but new for CFTC. What should people start thinking about for these new fields?
So you're right. The choreography of sending collateral balances across a portfolio and linking this to individual trades is a problem anyone who's reported under EMIR will be painfully familiar with. Ensuring that every trade is associated with a collateral portfolio and valuation, and that portfolio has the right balances reflected on a daily basis is obviously critical. You also have the complexity around reporting both post and pre-haircut balances, which will be a new requirement under both CFTC and EMIR, which will add significant complexity to the requirement. Delta is a new field to be reported on valuations, and again, firms should have that data available, but the choreography of making sure that it is sent on the valuation and that valuation is applied to a live and correct position is one firms will also have to tackle.
One question for you, Andrew. If my firm is interested in looking at DTC consulting or what kind of assistance you can provide, can you give us a brief idea of the kinds of engagements that you're talking to people about, and give our viewers an idea of where they might want to go?
Absolutely. So we offer a genuinely end-to-end consulting proposition across regulatory change and more BAU related projects. So on the reg change side, we offer services from rule interpretation all the way through to implementation and testing. At the start of a project, we're not afraid to give a view on what the rules mean and how they should be implemented, from analysis of the legal text itself all the way through to sourcing the individual data attributes on the submission files. We can then help manage firms' technical implementations of the requirements, which we've completed recently with a firm on SEC reporting, and then testing. On the BAU side, we offer control framework reviews, which are a comprehensive analysis of a firm's architecture and processes, benchmarked against industry best practice and what their peers are doing. I think we're fairly unique in our ability to hone in on the day-to-day process, having run reporting teams in previous roles.